You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
I'm Toni Heath.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of Rassilon.
It is. That's true. That's a true thing you said.
Cool. Today we're going to be talking about the 4th and 5th episodes of the first series of Doctor Who.
What? Oh, damn.
Aliens of London and World War III, which aired April 16th, 2005 and April 23rd, 2005. Joe Facts!
I thought we were going to talk about Superman.
That makes sense then why you agreed to be on the podcast on this episode.
Yeah. I watched the first episode, the opening two-parter of Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman from 1993.
How was that?
You know, surprisingly decent. Better than Man of Steel, for sure.
Well, that's not a high bar to...
Yeah, no.
Hey, who are you?
Hi, I'm Vincent E.L, I suppose.
Yes, you've been on the podcast numerous times before. You also do our theme song.
I did do that, yes.
This may be people's first exposure to you, like if people are just joining us for New Who and didn't listen to Classic Who. So tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, I made the theme song. That's about it, really.
That's the only thing Vince has ever done.
Yep, I'm just an old friend who made a theme song.
You've done more than that.
Yeah.
You've done other theme songs.
I've done other theme songs. I've done other songs. I did Fuck the Fire Department.
Is that like your biggest thing now?
I guess so. I guess that is the biggest thing. It's kind of tragic because every time somebody gets killed by a cop, people post it everywhere.
Oh no.
Boy.
So, yeah.
What was the biggest thing before Fuck the Fire Department?
That was probably the Dr. Horrible DVD extra, or maybe the Atop the Fourth Wall theme song, maybe? I don't know.
You're just super popular. This is what we're getting at.
Not really. Nobody knows who I am.
I know who you are.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, yeah, you're somebody.
I'm also aware of your existence.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
We should maybe do a little bonus episode, the three of us, at some point.
A bonus episode?
Yeah, there's a new Ninja Turtles coming out.
Oh, yeah, there is a new Ninja Turtles coming out.
It looks good and I'm pumped.
I don't know if you listened to our episode on the Ninja Turtles or not, but I put a little bit of your song in there.
Oh, that thing. That's also a thing that exists, I suppose.
It was like not on YouTube for a little while for some reason, and then it was again. So
I think it returned because I got demonetized for not posting enough.
Oh.
I had it on my iPod.
Well, that was an older version. Or did you have both?
I probably had both.
Yeah. But, hey.
Hey!
We should probably talk about Doctor Who.
Doctor
Let's do
Who?
it.
I remember Doctor Who.
So you didn't watch these episodes. You just watched Superman.
No, I did. I actually watched them twice.
You watched them with us very sleepily, and then
I watched them again awake somewhat. I didn't super pay attention, but I paid enough attention to sort of get the gist. I know what they're about.
And you've seen them before as well.
Yeah, I've seen them before multiple times, so I'm familiar enough, I think.
All right. Well, for those who aren't familiar with it, I'm going to give a brief summary of the two episodes.
Do it.
It's less brief than I realized. I wrote this up this morning, and it's kind of long. But I've also
has prepared a book report for you all.
Here's my book report.
Okay, can I before that give a shorter, brief summary of these episodes?
Oh, please do.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It's the ones with the farty aliens. That's it.
Yeah. I've also given alternate titles for these episodes, as well as like a serial title
Okay.
for it. So
Okay.
my serial title is Secret Invasion because it's relevant right now. So
Oh, okay.
and it's like similar.
You're watching Secret Invasion, yeah?
I'm only halfway through episode 2. I did get spoiled on something. Somebody's been a Skrull for a little while. That it's like a big MCU character.
I saw it.
Yeah, did you see who it was?
Yeah, I didn't care. Which is how I feel about Secret Invasion.
That's fair. It's not.
I should be fair. I watched
watched
an episode.
And you half watched it.
I think it has the worst politics. The last couple of Marvel things have been like, look at these alt-left people.
Specifically this and the new Captain America show. What was it called?
Falcon and the Winter Soldier?
I didn't watch that either.
Anyway, Doctor Who.
Yes.
Here's my summary for these episodes. In Secret Invasion Part 1, Pigs in Space.
Pigs in space.
The Doctor brings Rose back home a year too late. After talking to her upset mother Jackie and not telling Mickey at all...
No one told Mickey. Not even just Rose didn't think to do it. No, there's all those people over at her house. No one called him.
Rose complains that it sucks that she's the only human who knows about aliens. Then a spaceship flies through Big Ben, crashing into the river. The Doctor watches a tremendous amount of news coverage and also a cake being made. An alien is found on board the ship, and the Doctor goes to check it out. Turns out the alien is a pig. Like a literal pig. Meanwhile, 3 farting government officials are calling the shots regarding the supposed alien invasion after the mysterious disappearance of the Prime Minister. Turns out they are an alien family called the Slitheen. A backbencher MP named Harriet Jones witnesses them killing a military man and swapping into his skin. After Jackie rats out the Doctor, he is taken to 10 Downing Street along with a bunch of other alien experts, including unit members, to discuss the problem. Turns out it's a trap, and all of them are electrocuted. Meanwhile, Harriet Jones fills Rose in on what she saw. Then they find the dead Prime Minister. They are soon cornered by a Slitheen. Also, Jackie is threatened by a Slitheen, posing as a policeman. Cliffhanger! In Secret Invasion Part 2, Naked Victory, the Doctor moves his electrocution to the Slitheen, which somehow makes all of the Slitheen get electrocuted. Not sure how. Rose, the Doctor...
It's not important.
It's not important. Rose, the Doctor, and Harriet Jones wind up sealing themselves off in the cabinet room. They phone Mickey and Jackie, who help them by buffaloing their way into government websites.
Insanely weak password.
Mickey and Jackie are briefly attacked by the policeman Slitheen, but everyone figures out their weakness is vinegar, and they explode him with pickled foods. The Slitheen do a press conference saying that they are being invaded and they need nuclear codes to attack the aliens. But really, they are going to blow up the Earth and sell it for parts. The Doctor has Mickey send a missile to 10 Downing Street, and it blows the building up, killing the Slitheen and preventing them from getting the nuclear codes. The Doctor, Rose, and Harriet Jones survive in their sealed-off bunker. The Doctor tells Rose that Harriet will be the next Prime Minister. Then the Doctor semi-bullies Rose into leaving her family again, and also gives Mickey a computer virus to remove the Doctor from the internet. Then Rose and the Doctor TARDIS to their next adventure. And that is my summary of Secret Invasion Part 1 and Part 2.
Good job.
Thank you for your book report.
I also kind of left out that, Rose's mom, Jackie, gets real, annoyed with the Doctor.
I have always lived the concept of the Doctor show, accidentally showing up a year late, because I think it's, a prime example of how little time matters when you're a time traveler, and how alienating that is to the people that you leave behind. Because if you think about it I showed up a year late. Oops, oh well. That's a pretty small increment. And then, the impact of just being missing for a year on all of the people who were going through time, who, you left behind to go through time at a linear pace. I think it's a great example of the difference that, traveling in the Doctor, the difference that makes from the people that aren't traveling with you.
Also, Mickey has been a assumed murderer for, a year.
Well, a murder suspect.
Murder suspect.
He stops being mad about that way quicker than I would. I guess you gotta get over things if, the person you're mad at is the only person who can, save the world.
Yeah, you kind of have to put things like that aside.
There's a lot to dislike about this episode, but I do enjoy the sort of getting like more of the home life of the companion sort of thing, and how
domestic.
how that would affect people, the Doctor taking people away for a while, because you don't really get that in Classic Who, of what happens with the people left behind, and that's interesting to see. So kudos to RTD for doing that. There's some other stuff in this I didn't like. Two big things, really. One's the obvious one. Aliens.
We don't like farting aliens.
The aliens themselves are fine. Maybe a little fat phobic, but also they fart, and all the time. I counted it. They fart 18 times throughout these two episodes.
The farting is a plot point, but it's a very arbitrary plot device. It could have easily been something else.
Profusely sweating.
Yeah, like anything that could give away how to defeat them, basically. Like, yeah, if they were profusely sweating, that would maybe give you a hint as to, oh, they might be sensitive to heat, for example. But instead it was like, oh, they fart and it smells like bad breath and therefore calcium and therefore vinegar. That was basically the plot device, was like, oh, in order to figure out how to defeat these aliens, which is to murder them, in order to figure out how to murder these Raxacoricophalopatorians, we smell their farts and they smell like bad breath, which means calcium decay, which means that they can be defeated with
pickles.
Because was it a gas exchange because of the compression field that they're using to fit themselves into the skin suits?
Right, because they're like 8 feet tall and they have to squish down into these suits. These human suits.
Yeah, but they have to use large human suits because they can only compress so much.
Right, which is why they didn't just take over the Prime Minister.
Right. They took over somebody who was like in charge of like inspecting sugar of imported confections or something.
I don't remember. That sounds right.
It was something like that.
They have to take over like a military guy at one point.
They're so far down the chain, which I do think is funny.
Yeah.
There's just like these 3 people who are like kind of in government. And they're like, all right, we did it.
And it's not just that they fart. They enjoy farting a little too much. They're a little too into it. It gets weird.
I did read a defense of this, specifically saying that the point isn't that the farts are funny. It's the fact that they find it funny. They have like this almost childlike glee about things.
Yeah, I mean they're clearly a satire of Americans. I mean that's the whole idea of these kids. They're capitalists and they're waging a war over fake shit in order to make money off of fuel. Like, it's very clearly a satire of America. The whole serial.
Oh, that's why they have to be fat.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, probably.
And there's the whole like Iraq thing they specifically sort of reference weapons of mass destruction at one point.
Yeah, but they call them massive weapons of destruction, I think, which is like a very thin satire. Like that's as skinny as the satire gets in these 2 episodes, is calling them massive weapons of destruction, which is very clunky.
The Prime Minister that they kill is supposed to be Tony Blair. They cast an impersonator, and then when he showed up, they're like, this guy doesn't look like Tony Blair, which is why you only see him like face down on the ground.
They cast him sight unseen?
They just cast a Tony Blair impersonator, and then he showed up, and they're like,
but they couldn't like audition Tony Blair impersonators?
I guess not. I don't know.
Or like find one that they already knew about? Because there's gotta be a few.
No, there's just one, and he does not look.
The thing is, it's like it's probably like, oh, I put on the voice and then I do something with my face, then I'm Tony Blair. But if I'm just laying there dead, don't look like him. I don't know. I have no idea. That is a thing I forgot about. I forgot that you also forgot about it. You mentioned it when we were watching it, that they're not the Slitheen. That's not their species. Yeah, that's their name.
You forgot that?
I did forget that. Yeah,
because I've noticed that the writers of the show forgot that over time, because they keep referencing Slitheen as if they're a species, and every time they do that, I'm like, Slitheen is not a species. They are Raxacoricophalopatorians. They are from Raxacoricophalopatorius. The Slitheen is a family. That was a whole thing. And they keep forgetting that every time they reference them.
I would like to blame my forgetting that on all the Doctor Who media that came after this. Because I think it is a clever bit of writing that you have a tendency to think too big when, like, writing and reading sci-fi stories, right? Like, you meet, like, one creature or whatever, and you're like, that's what every single person on your planet is exactly like this.
Yeah, they're just like a family of capitalist, war-profiteering pirates, basically.
I'm going to chalk this up as a reference to the Ice Warriors, because that's a similar situation where they're just called the Ice Warriors.
Because they were found in ice.
Yeah. Even though that's not it at all.
Then it became a whole thing.
That's just a classic Who reference.
Right, they referenced the past by forgetting what they did recently.
Can we all agree that Raxacoricophalopatorius might be the best bit of writing RTD has ever done?
That's a great word.
It's so good.
It's not as good as the Mighty Jaggerfest of the... the Mighty Jaggerfest of the Holy Hadrajasic Max of Rodinfo? Is that what it was?
I don't know. The fact that you can't get it is kind of downplaying your point.
Well, I can get it, but I forgot which order the words came in. It's the Mighty Jaggerfest of the Holy Hadrajasic Max of Rodinfo. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's the order of the words.
It's the thing that Chris Chibnall tries to do, but is bad at.
Yeah. It's a nice thing to construct a word that you're like, oh, that's fun to say.
Raxacoricophalopatorius. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rolls off the tongue.
Do you know it's not that?
What?
That name of that Chibnall episode I can't remember.
Any of them? The Sishangara Conundrum.
That's the one. That's the polar opposite.
That Saranga Conundrum?
Yeah.
Is
maybe.
that it?
I think it's the Saranga Conundrum. The conundrum was the harder part to say for me. And that's a word.
It's smushing those two things together.
Yeah, it's the first word really creates a stumbling block for the second word. But now we're getting ahead of ourselves, even with the Mighty Jaggerfest of the Holy Hadrajasic Max of Rodinfo.
I will say the other thing that I didn't like about this episode is the pace. I feel like it didn't need to be a two-parter.
It could have been a one-parter.
The first episode really drags. I do like the idea of just, like, sort of hanging out at Rose's apartment and all that. But there is a bit where it's like, it'd be nice if something happened.
And there are a lot of, like, little moments that could have been half of what they are in terms of length. Like, they linger on a couple of things that they don't need to linger on. There are a couple of, like, line exchanges that are, like, 4 lines that could have been 2 lines. Things like that. So, like, a lot of little things, I think, could have been truncated to create a one episode out of these 2 episodes. And also, the farting aliens could have just... I mean, why not just use Zygons? Like, why not just use Zygons? You've got shape-shifting aliens already in this universe, established from old Who. Could have brought them back. Could have told a story. A pretty cool one-part episode with Zygons. And just let Zygons be Zygons, and that's, and you've got a pretty good episode. But instead, it's like we've got to do this farting thing with the fat people, and it doesn't feel worth it.
I will say, I think I don't remember anyone's names, but the one woman Slovene.
Mm-hmm. The one who comes back in Boomtown?
Blonde. That's the name of the character. That's the Raxacoricophalopatorian name, not the stolen one.
That word has a weird mouthfeel.
Blonde?
Blonde. My American mouth doesn't like it. I forgot what I was saying. Oh, that I think she's having, like, so much fun, and that's clear. Like, I think she's giving a delightful performance, as much as I dislike the concept.
I think they all do pretty good.
There's one moment where I think she's having too much fun, which is I'm shaking my booty. That line should not exist in this episode. It's not good.
You're not wrong.
Speaking of lines that should not exist, the biggest line that should not exist is the scene where Rose calls the doctor gay.
That's a little weird, but it's very of the time.
Yeah.
Because that is definitely a thing that people of that age did at that time. So, like, I buy it. Like, I buy it as a bit of realism, but yeah.
There was
Yeah.
something about it, though, about getting violently yeeted back into 2005. I was like, oh yeah, that's just what it was like.
I had no memory of that line, so...
There's probably, because it probably didn't even register. You know what I mean?
No, I remember the line, but I did not remember it being specifically in this episode. But I remember there was a moment where Rose said gay in a meaningless context.
And it's odd that it's in an RTD written episode.
Yeah, well, I think that's just him being realistic. I think he's just listening to how people talk and going, well, that's a thing that somebody who's 19 years old would say.
Right.
Just because they would say it doesn't mean they should say
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I think we're all on the same page about that. But I'm guessing that was his thought process of like, I mean, this is just realistic. She's a problematic character. And like Rose is a problematic character, and we see that in this episode as well. We see her starting to get sort of jaded and callous, and she's already problematic toward Mickey. Everybody's problematic toward Mickey.
Literally, that whole apartment full of people, no one thought to tell him. It's not just Rose who, like, doesn't think about Mickey. I think it's everyone.
And also, the doctor is super rude to
Wow.
Oh, wow, shit.
Really?
To Mickey.
Really? Joe is canceled.
Unreal.
I can't believe I almost called him Ricky. To think that will eventually pay off.
I was gonna say, that's one of the best punchlines.
But yeah, he's just like rude to him for no reason. Though they end on better terms at the end of the episode.
I love to see someone being rude in a way that is actually nice. That's a trope I enjoy.
Yeah, when he can't come on the TARDIS, like, you know,
Yeah.
he'd be
Oh, it's truly bullshit that Rose is like, sorry, Mickey, I tried. Instead of being like, why are you being such a dick?
The doctor is kind of a dick in general, like, because there's also
he is.
the scene where he calls Rose and is like, let's go, and she's like, well, I want to hang out with my family for a little bit, and he's like, gives her basically an ultimatum.
Yeah.
That's kind of shitty.
A little manipulative. It's hard to even call it manipulative because it's so fucking blatant.
Again, this man needs therapy.
I think that's fair to say. The doctor needs... I mean, everybody needs therapy. I mean, Rose definitely needs therapy.
For sure. There's very few people who wouldn't benefit from therapy. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
Blanket statement.
Yeah, I mean, Jackie needs therapy for different reasons. And, I mean, Mickey needs therapy to, like, get some more self-confidence. Although I think this episode was a little bit therapeutic for Mickey. Because he gets to, like, stand up a little bit.
Yeah.
And he gets to save Jackie and...
He saves Jackie, and he also stands up to Jackie.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice. Because she's, like, not going to let him do the thing at the end.
Yeah, he doesn't stand up to Rose yet, but, spoilers.
Oh, God, there is so much, like... I don't know if it's probably not intentional, but there's like some interesting foreshadowing of things that happen to Rose specifically.
Oh, like Jackie talking about, and what if she just gets stuck on a moon somewhere?
Yeah, there's some stuff like that that's like,
I think it's largely intentional, but maybe not like planned out down to the detail. But I think Russell probably had a general idea of where he was going.
Yeah, and speaking of like plans for things, this is the third episode with a bad wolf mention, but it's the first one I think that is super noticeable, which is the graffiti on the TARDIS, because it's very blatant. Like in the end of the world, it was like you could almost miss it. I think you did miss it when we watched it.
I did. You told me about it, and I was like, if you say so.
Yeah, there's just like that one alien talking to the face of Bo and says something about the bad wolf scenario. The second one is Gwyneth in The Unquiet Dead saying it. Like, she says the big bad wolf. And you could almost miss that too, because in context it makes sense. But this is the first time where I feel like you're like, what's that about?
Third time's battered.
And I feel like that's such an iconic image too. Is the
bad wolf on the TARDIS.
Yeah, I feel like there's like three iconic alterations to the TARDIS. That one, the time that it was pink in that Seventh Doctor story, and
I thought you meant now.
Oh yeah, it's pink now for Barbie. But also that time that the other guy did graffiti on it for Clara. A lot of good graffiti on the TARDIS.
I wonder if it was necessary to even clean it off. But about the Bad Wolf thing, I don't think there was much of a plan for what Bad Wolf was at this stage. I think there was just the idea, oh, Bad Wolf, we're going to do something with that eventually. I think that was pretty much the extent of it.
I think this was actually the first instance of it, too, and then they went back and added it into previous episodes, like when they were writing the season.
That makes sense.
Spoilers for the end of the season, I guess, but, like, I don't know if the Bad Wolf thing really makes sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make sense.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it works, but it doesn't work. Like, it works dramatically, but it doesn't work logically.
I think that's kind of a defining characteristic of this era of Doctor Who, right? Is like,
I think that's fair.
we do a lot of things that, like, that makes emotional sense, and just don't look at it very closely, please.
Yeah.
I feel like we're starting to get a little more classic Who references as well, because in this episode, because first off, you've got the cliffhanger, which very classic Who of we're not going to reveal the monsters till the end. Though I think that cliffhanger is so slow. We see 3 different people being imperiled by.
Yeah, it's padded as hell.
Not to mention, the second episode is largely just the Doctor, Rose, and Harriet in a room. For like 95% of the episode, it's just them in a room, talking on the phone.
That could have been shorter.
Though I will say this is a rare 2-parter, where the second part is better than the first part. The pace is quicker, and there's less farting.
I've already established it, so they don't gotta...
They both put on the gas and let off of the gas at the same time.
Yeah, and a lot of the plot gets explained in part 2, and it actually makes sense. A lot of it, like the vinegar thing, is still just like it's a thing that gets shoved into the script in order to have plot happen. But in terms of like the plan to nuke the planet, or what they're trying to do is they're trying to incite nuclear war so that the planet will basically nuke itself. They're going to start it. And then everybody's going to nuke everybody. And then the whole planet's going to get nuked. And then it's going to be just a bunch of radioactive waste. And then they're going to sell that as fuel. Like, that plot, I think that's a really good sci-fi concept. And I think it works. I think the logic is understandable. I don't know how, like, physically possible it would be to run spaceships on radioactive waste of a planet, but just in terms of the idea, it works. And then the idea of like, oh, they did the pig thing was they took a pig and they made it into a fake alien, and then they did a fake spaceship crash into to Big Ben in order to create a ruckus to get a reaction out of people, get people talking, get people worrying about aliens. And like that works, and like all that stuff works. It's just the bit with the farting just is unnecessary.
Hang on a minute. Is the premise of this episode that Bush did 9/11?
Well, it sort of, but meta-narratively, it could certainly be read that way. I don't know that that's necessarily what they're trying to say. I think it's more that they're playing with that idea around it because it works as a sci-fi, as a story concept, rather than opportunistically using a situation that comes along in order to essentially do the same thing. They're creating the situation, which is what the conspiracy theory says, but like it's effectively the same thing either way. Opportunism versus creating the opportunity.
I do really like the idea of aliens faking an alien invasion. That's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ideas here. And then there's the farting aliens that just sort of, that's the thing that people remember about these episodes, like the farting aliens episodes. And then they remember season 1 as the season with the farting aliens. And it's sort of the stink of bad breath takes over the whole season because of that one plot element in these 2 episodes that are otherwise pretty good episodes. Like, a little drawn out, but like if you shoved them together into one episode, switched out the Raxacoric Ephelopatorians for Zygons, and now you've got an episode. You've got a good Zygon reintroduction episode.
Oh, another classic Who reference we get Unit is back in this episode. which is also the last time they are called the United Nations Intelligence Task Force.
Yeah, they also get killed. So this episode, we're reintroduced to Unit, and then Unit is dead. I mean, there might be Unit people left, but...
Yeah, the Brig's not there.
Yeah, but also, like, the doctor says that the contacts that he has are, like, they're dead in that room. So, like, we're left to assume, based on what's presented in front of us, that there's nothing left that the doctor is aware of Unit, at least. Unless the doctor is lying, which is also a possibility in every situation.
He also says that the Unit people there probably wouldn't know who he is because basically he says he looks different. So that's the first time I feel like this show had, or kind of the second time that they've sort of hinted that
about regeneration.
Yeah, because there was also the ears joke in the first episode, but this is our sort of second reference to it. But yeah, this is the last time it's called United Nations Intelligence Task Force because the United Nations was like, hey, can you change the name? So then they become Unified Intelligence Task Force. So, just a little bit of trivia for you. Joe Facts! I also want to talk about that Buffalo password.
Yeah, please.
So the doctor gives Mickey the password to get into like all the government websites, and they're all just the word buffalo.
Yeah, but like one is the animal buffalo, one is the place buffalo, and one is the verb buffalo. Because buffalo. That's
what I'm saying.
That's what I'm wondering. Was it a reference to that?
I think probably. That was probably the subtle joke there. Was probably that sentence.
How many times in a row can you say buffalo and it's a complete sentence? It's like 7 or 8.
Let's see. Buffalo. I'm getting 8. There might be a different one. You might be able to get more in there.
On the one hand, it's like, that's a terrible password. Like,
yeah.
That's a terrible protocol. On the other hand, I'm pretty sure there's like 3 passwords max at like the whole of my office. So
I've also worked at multiple places, and a lot of places do the same pattern.
Yes.
Of passwords. So yeah, they all use the same. You know, we have to use a number and a symbol, and they all use the same number and symbol.
The same symbol.
Just a different word. So that's a thing. But yeah, there's no numbers or symbols in Buffalo. It's a terrible password. Okay, I think the farting is bad, but I think the Slitheen look cool.
Most of the time they look cool, yeah.
When they're not CG and, like, clipping through walls.
Yeah, I will say, as bad as that, I mean, there's a particular scene where they're, like, chasing someone through a hall that looks terrible because the CG's so bad. But the actual, like, animation, like, the actual positioning of how they run, I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's just the lighting doesn't match the scene.
Also, there's that hallway shot you're talking about, like that sort of wide shot. They go through it one way and then they go through it a different direction, and they use the exact same animation.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, by the way, with the lighting not matching the scene, the same thing happened with Clark Kent flying through the sky over Metropolis going back to Kansas in Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman.
It all comes together.
The lighting in that scene did not match the background either.
Is there a spaceship crash in that episode as well? Did they do the baby thing?
No, it's implied.
Oh.
They don't show the spaceship crash.
That's a pretty good effect.
The crash? The spaceship?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The crashing into the Big Ben. I forget what the actual bell. I know Big Ben is technically the bell. It's not the Westminster Abbey, is it? No. Is that a different one? I don't remember. I don't know my London shit.
I'm Googling it. But yeah, it
Here's
crashed.
what I know.
What?
Big clock.
Elizabeth Tower.
Right.
It's the nickname for the Great Bell of the Great Clock of Westminster. At the north end of the Palace of Westminster.
Wait, is it Westminster Abbey?
Yeah, the official name of the tower in which Big Ben is located was originally the Clock Tower, but was renamed Elizabeth Tower in 2012.
Yeah, I think Westminster Abbey is a different building entirely.
But it is in Westminster,
Right.
so...
Yeah, that's why I was confused, I guess.
But not only does, like, it crashing through Big Ben look cool, but, like, when it hits the water effect is pretty good, too. I watched a little making of... It was Doctor Who Confidential, and there was like they talked about how they did that shot, and it looked pretty cool. The whole all the water CG, and then they mixed in some real water splashes. sand splashes.
Hmm.
And then another shot of when the water goes over the camera, they added in just real water and then tinted it brown so it matched.
Nice.
CGI water is not the easiest thing to do, from what I understand. I understand water is a particularly tricky beast.
Yeah, and it looks pretty good, so kudos. I also like the pig. I read some people didn't like the pig, but I like the pig.
What were people
They said the pig was too silly.
In concept or in how it looked?
Yeah.
I think in how it looked.
Because I think the doctor, like, shouting, like, after it gets shot.
It was scared.
Shouting that it was scared is, like, one of my all-time favorite Doctor Who moments.
I love that.
And that's also the scene where we see Tosh, who will go on to be a character in Torchwood. And I like her character, specifically in season 2, which we're going to watch, right?
The main thing I remember about Torchwood is really not liking, what's his name, Owen?
Yeah, he sucks for like a long time. And then you like him, and what was weird was watching it with Joe, I forgot about the part where he sucks. And we were watching it, and I was like, why does he suck so much?
To be fair, kind of everyone sucks in that first season.
Yeah.
And then they get better in season 2.
Idea is like, what if Doctor Who, but everyone's unlikable?
Like, Gwen kind of sucks. Owen sucks.
The thing is, the show tried to do adult by just making everybody suck. Which is like, it's a weird, like, Zack Snyder kind of thinking of, like, what if everybody just fucking sucks? Wouldn't that be cool? And adult and mature. And I'm like, can I not watch this shit?
I do think it got better in season 2 when they were like, maybe let's not have everyone suck quite so much.
It's too late for me. Because, like, I watched season 2 and I was like, well, this is better than season 1, but I still remember how much everybody sucked in season 1. I couldn't get over it, so I couldn't stick around.
Did you see season 3?
I don't remember. How many seasons are there?
4.
This is also how I feel about Torchwood. When people are talking about, like, seasons of Torchwood, and I'm like, I think I saw them all.
Season 3 is Children of Earth, and season 4 is Miracle Day.
I definitely didn't see Miracle Day, and I may have seen part of Children of Earth, but I don't even know.
Peter Pauly's in it.
I'm the only person in the whole world who doesn't like Children of Earth.
I really like Children of Earth.
Everyone, it's universally beloved.
Is Miracle Day the when they went to America?
Yes.
Because I definitely didn't see that, and I don't think I saw the one before it either. And I think that's why I didn't see the one where they went to America, because I wasn't caught up. And I was too late. I was just not interested at the time because season 1 just made me hate Owen so much, and like everybody sucked.
Yeah, no, it's completely fair.
But we're really jumping ahead.
Yeah.
Are your listeners on this podcast, are they caught up on, or are they just like watching for the first time and going like, what the fuck are these people talking about? What's the Torchwood?
I don't know.
And then they're gonna watch season 2 of the Doctor Who stuff, series 2, and they're gonna start hearing about Torchwood and going, what the fuck is this? The thing with Owen who sucks? Like,
I truly hope that's someone's first. That someone has that experience. Is this the thing with Owen who sucks?
He's good in Pacific Rim.
He is good in Pacific Rim.
I like that actor. About this episode. Well, Harriet Jones. I don't feel like we've talked about Harriet Jones.
We haven't really talked about Harriet Jones. I have a lot of feelings about Harriet Jones, who I think was done dirty.
Not in this episode.
Not in this episode. But why set someone up and be like, she brings us into the golden age and a real hero. She's just great.
and then spoiler alert.
And then just really shit on her later is is what I'm saying.
I don't know. I don't honestly remember what happens with her, so...
I remember what happens.
I do too. What season is that in?
That is it's not in a season. It's in a special.
It's not even in a season proper? For some reason, that makes me angrier.
That was actually probably the first episode of Doctor Who I ever watched. It's the Christmas Invasion.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the Doctor's... It's Tin's first one?
Yeah. Unless you count the end of the one before it. But now we're really spoiling things. How spoilery is this part? Is this a spoiler cast? Is that what this is now?
I honestly don't know.
I've always kind of assumed that people who are listening have already seen, who are like caught up with current Who, but I don't know.
We've definitely spoiled stuff, and when we did classic Who episodes, we talked about new Who stuff.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, people listening, do you hate us?
Well, I don't know if people are watching it like for the first time and watching through.
Mm-hmm.
I've always kind of assumed that it was people who like had seen it all before,
Well, I know there's definitely people
or who
who
are at
were
least
watching...
like current with New Who.
Yeah. I know, like, when we were doing Classic Who, I think there were people that were watching Classic Who with us, but they had seen New Who.
Yeah,
Because I mean, there might be people who started listening and watching the old Who, and then watched all of old Who with you guys, and now they're watching New Who and they've never seen it before.
for the first time.
I feel like we haven't said anything too terribly spoilery, perhaps. Like, we didn't say that...
Are you trying to think of a bombshell to drop?
Yeah. I can't think of anything.
Jodie Whittaker becomes the Doctor.
We didn't say that.
Right. We didn't say that died.
You didn't say that Adric died.
That Doctor Who Confidential I watched talked about Adric dying.
Did it?
Yeah, because it was about, like, Rose as a companion, and they just talk about companions. And the Fifth Doctor said that Adric was the first companion who died. And that's not correct.
No.
That would be Katarina. And maybe Sarah Kingdom, if you count Sarah Kingdom.
I don't.
But yeah, Adric's not the first to die. I just want to get mad at Peter Davison.
Just for a second.
But I liked Harriet Jones in this episode.
Yeah, she's a great character, and it makes sense that they like brought her back again. I guess I'll say that much.
Yeah. And she was great as Sean's mom in Shaun of the Dead. I'm trying to think, is there anything else we need to talk about?
I
that
think
we want to talk
what
about?
we need to do now is take an ad break.
Well, let's see if there's any additional discussion before we take a...
It kind of seems like what you're asking for is final thoughts, and then have
I'm not
things-
asking for final thoughts. I'm asking if there's anything we want to discuss before we take a break and do final thoughts. That's what I'm asking. Because Vince may have more thoughts.
Oh, okay.
Non-final thoughts?
Yeah, non-final
Yeah,
thoughts.
non-final
Something
thoughts.
to discuss.
Non-final thoughts.
Final thoughts is like, this is what I feel about the thing as a whole. This is the portion where we just discuss things. This is the open discussion portion.
Open discussion portion.
Yeah.
Well, we went over Bush did 9/11.
That cannot be the title of this episode.
No, the title of this episode is Let Zygons Be Zygons. We went over the pig. I like the pig. I like the idea of the pig. I like the execution of the pig. I think the pig totally works.
Whoa, you like the execution of the pig?
That was my least favorite part.
I like how the execution of the idea of the pig was done. I did not like that the pig was executed. That was sad, but I think that worked for the story, for the episode, for the Doctor. We went over character progression somewhat. Oh, we didn't talk about that. The moment where the Doctor is like, well, I could save the world, but you lose you. And I feel like that's a pretty important moment for the Doctor. Should we discuss that?
That's a fantastic scene.
He's got to choose the planet, though, because Rose is part of it.
Right, she kind of dies either way, right?
Yeah, was there a scenario in which the planet dies but Rose survives? I mean, I guess the room was very well protected. I don't know that it was that protected. Oh, by the way, that idea, the whole thing with, oh, this room it was in so-and-so year, it was this and that, and now it's super protected. Did anybody get what was going on with that? Was there anything? The room that they're in, it's armored and shit. Is that a real life thing? I'm guessing not.
It didn't look real.
I have to assume that it's not.
Obviously, it's a set, but I mean, there's a room that exists in real life in the actual 10 Downing Street, and the question is that room armored? And I'm guessing it's not. I'm guessing that's just something they made up for the show.
I have to imagine that there is an armored room somewhere, but that it's like secret and hidden. You know, like it's underground. It's not like there are big steel things that close.
I do want to say...
There's like a bunker somewhere.
Yeah, there's probably like a bunker or something.
It bothered me so much that the first time the Doctor hits that button, the armored things go ka-chunk real quick. But there's a scene later where he opens it back up and he talks to the Slitheen. And then he presses the button again.
He says a badass line and it goes...
It closes so slowly. Is there like a fast button and a slow button? I don't understand.
I think it's the technique. It's how you push the button. Because it's not a switch. It's a pressure sensitive mechanism. So there's like a spring inside and there's like a pressure sensor. And so when you press it down, it reacts. It's kind of like a MIDI keyboard, how like there's velocity
weighted.
sensitivity. If you hit the keys very fast, you get a louder note. And if you just gently push it down, it's very soft. It's like that.
That checks out for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking it up. It doesn't appear that 10 Downing Street has an armored room.
Yeah, so did anybody buy the doctor's explanation for the armored room, or did it just sound like a bunch of, hi, I'm the doctor, here's some bullshit?
I bought it just so that the plot works.
I buy it if you think that, like, the doctor did that at some point.
I guess I could buy that the doctor was there. Yeah, I'd buy that. I'm willing to suspend my disbelief enough. And what was the thing about it was occupied by a chicken? What was that?
I honestly don't remember the explanation that he gave. It was very fast.
Yeah, because it's like it goes by really fast, and he says something about the room was occupied by a chicken, or 10 Downing Street was occupied by a chicken.
He said Mr. Chicken.
Mr. Chicken, a nice guy, I think he also added, or something like that.
Yeah. Mr. Chicken was, in 1730, the owner of the property that would become 10 Downing Street. Wait, no, this is from the TARDIS Wikia? So that might not be
Okay,
true.
but that's fine. That's an explanation that I need.
No, I guess it is true.
What? It's true?
What's true?
It says it's
There
also
really
on the...
is somebody named Mr. Chicken?
He
That
was
was
the
real?
last private occupant of 10 Downing Street.
That's real.
That's real.
And his name was Mr. Chicken. Why don't they just call it Chicken House? Like, or the chicken coop? Like, why is it not a whole thing? If a place was last occupied by a Mr. Chicken, it should be...
I'd never shut up about it, yeah.
Yeah, it should be a whole thing. It should just be called the chicken coop. And that's where all the fucking hens come to roost or whatever they do.
He was resident of one of the 3 properties which comprised the current 10 Downing Street. Walpole convinced Mr. Chicken to move to another property on the street in the early 1730s. Mr. Chicken...
I want to know everything about Mr. Chicken.
Why is there not a Doctor Who episode about Mr. Chicken? I mean, why hasn't Big Finish done a whole fucking serial about Mr. Chicken?
No one apparently knows what his first name was.
Of course they don't!
Nothing else is known of Mr. Chicken other than that he lived there.
And his name is Mr. Chicken.
His name is Mr. Chicken.
That is perfect fodder for a Doctor Who story where you've got the last name of the person, you've got some context historically, but nothing else. That's fucking go and take it, eat it, enjoy it. Writers of Big Finish audio stories.
The Doctor meets Mr. Chicken.
Yeah, that could be like a 9th Doctor thing, or an 8th Doctor story, or any Doctor previous to 10.
There's definitely a nugget of an idea there.
Yeah, because the Doctor talks about Mr. Chicken as if he knew him. He says like nice guy or something.
I feel like you get a real tender episode out of it. Keep me abreast of any developments.
All right.
On this Mr. Chicken episode.
I get the yoke.
I'm going to leave!
You're really egging me on. I think Vince and I are both now just thinking.
Just the silence as your brains tick away.
I think we hit all the meaty parts of the chicken jokes.
Yeah, you can send me the bill.
All right, let's leg it away from this one. I think that's it. Anything else before we take a break?
No one's done wings yet.
Well, you got to do it. You said it.
Buildings sometimes have wings. There's something there. I don't know. But I don't know which wing that room was in.
It was the cabinet room. That's all I know.
You should not keep chicken in a cabinet. It's going to go bad.
It will go bad.
Cream of chicken. That's another thing. That's just now I'm just naming things.
Now we're
I'm not
just
even
doing
making
free
jokes.
association.
Yeah.
Now it's devolved into, what are their fucking names? Friedberg and Seltzer.
Yes.
What?
The guys who did all the movies.
Not all of them, but just the bad ones.
The movie?
Yeah.
Disaster movie, date movie, Meet the Spartans, epic movie. Yeah, those guys. They don't make jokes, they just make references. And I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. We're really just winging it now.
Oh, you got there.
All right.
Now it's time to go.
Yeah, let's take an ad break. We'll be back for final thoughts.
The Earth Station One podcast has been bringing your inner geek out to play for the past 13 years. Over this time, we've seen things change in the world of geek and podcasting alike.
And your friends here at ESO are looking to change also. We are now giving you double the fun by coming to you twice a week, and not just in audio, but now you can see our lovely faces up on YouTube.
Join Mike and Mike as we celebrate our 700th episode and beyond. Earth Station One is proud to be a founding member of the ESO network.
And we're back.
I thought we were going to be trapped in there forever.
That was intense. I'm fine now.
Oh, we barely survived that ad
It's fine
break.
now, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was
go.
really touch and go.
Yeah.
Also, some of my favorite Ninja Turtle characters.
I was just about to say something about that.
You really should have been on our Ninja Turtles episode.
I probably should have. What's up with me not being there?
I don't think we had any guests on our pilots.
Our pilots,
so.
yeah.
If people become Patreon patrons and we reach a certain amount, you can vote for Ninja Turtles to be one
I'm
of
pretty
our...
sure in the pilot I was like, why don't Vince and I have a Ninja Turtles podcast?
Yeah. You and Vince do a Ninja Turtles. Me and Ray will do a Simpsons. And then Ray and Vince will just fight each other to the death.
Is that a podcast or is that just...
That's the season finale, baby. The crossover season finale.
I don't know about that. I'm not much of a fighter.
Well, then you can love each other to death.
But it does have to be to death.
It has to be to death. Whatever you do.
I'm not much of a dyer either.
Okay, so, hey Tony, do you know what time it is?
Yes, I do.
Yeah?
It's 1:04.
Uh-huh.
Not in my time zone, it ain't.
I don't know what time it is in Sweden.
7:04.
It's 7:04.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Sunday.
Or 1904, however you want to do that.
It is 1904.
It's the year 1904.
Anything else you want to know?
Yeah, what do we do at this point in the podcast?
Usually this bit.
And then what do we do after that bit? But before we finish the episode?
We do final thoughts. I could have
okay.
said plugs.
You could have.
I could have.
Fucked up. You already said it. We're doing final
we're
thoughts.
out of the bit.
The final thoughts are always such a pressure because they're final, right?
You can have no more thoughts after this.
Yeah, and once I've given my final thought, it's just like, and then I think of more thoughts, and it's like, oh shit, I forgot this final thought, and it's like the Final Fantasy game series. You know the Final Fantasy games? They made Final Fantasy, and then they were like, shit, now we gotta make another one? What are we gonna call it? Final Fantasy 2? Oh shit. Final Fantasy 3? What is happening? That is how I feel about final thoughts.
It's like whenever you like render out a file and you put like final at the end of it, and then you have to final .2 or
Final for real this time.
Yeah, that's why I don't do that. So the whole final thoughts thing is very, it's a lot of pressure for me because I can't commit.
Then give us your penultimate thoughts.
My penultimate thoughts. Well, my penultimate thoughts are, I like this episode probably more than a lot of people do, but I also acknowledge that it could be better. And I've gone over already why it could be better and what things about it I would change. I'd make it shorter and I'd change it to Zygons. And I'd come up with something else instead of the fucking farting. But other than that, like I think it's a pretty solid satire. I think it's a pretty well constructed like science fiction satire of current events. Well, at the time, current events, the war on terror and all that stuff, and the going to war for oil / radioactive chunks. I mean, it works on like so many levels, and like it's pretty well constructed plot wise. There are some things that are like Russell T Davies bullshit, where it's like just stuff happening for the sake of plot, or stuff being in there for the sake of plot not happening as quickly as it would otherwise. It's like stuff that's there to plug up or move along the plot and doesn't really fill in any other function. But the satire works, the sci-fi work. Like I think it's a fairly solid science fiction story. It could have been tweaked a little bit. But yeah. Are those my final thoughts? I don't know.
No, they're your penultimate thoughts.
My penultimate thoughts, right. Yeah.
Penultimate thoughts.
Yeah, if I think of anything else, I'll get back to you, but
All right, Toni.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by how much I enjoyed this one. I was not looking forward to watching it because I also just remembered it as the one with the farting aliens. It's weird after, like, you know, a long time what sticks with you and what doesn't. But there's a lot of stuff in this that is good. There's that really good moment of the doctor trying to defend the little pig creature. Also reminds me what I like about this era so much, and that's the really heavy focus on, like, characters and their relationships, and it's a thing that I feel like, as time goes on, becomes less of a main building block in Doctor Who. I mean, you know, you have different showrunners who are interested in different things, and I feel like...
Oh yeah, Moffat, very interested in plot.
Very interested in plot and, like, logistics and puzzles and that kind of thing. I was trying to figure out what Chibnall's interested in.
Cops.
Aesthetics? No, he's not good at that either.
To me, like, Chibnall is a lot of setup, and then the payoff tends to not work.
Or even be there?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude. I'm genuinely struggling.
I'm not sure what he's interested in. I think
Chibnall is interested in fixing the problems with Trial of a Time Lord, but doesn't know how to fix it.
I'm not quite sure. But yeah, I think when it comes down to it, like, personally, I'm always going to gravitate towards stuff that has, like, emotions and relationships at the crux of it. And that results in maybe episodes not being all that memorable because you, like, you know, a year later you're like, what happened in that episode? I don't know because the plot's not important.
Right.
But I remember, like, in the season overall, these specific emotional beats. And yeah, I don't know. I guess that, like, watching this two-parter was, like, a good reminder of, like, yeah, there are things that resonate in this era of Doctor Who with me more than later seasons. And actually, it's been kind of fun to watch them with you because it seems like you're more, like, plot-focused as a person. And, like, watching you watch it, I'm like, I can see actually how this is, like, well-constructed and fun.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I probably, you know, left to my own devices, wasn't paying as much attention to that stuff, if that makes sense. Those are my final thoughts.
Because when we were going to watch this, you were like, I don't want to watch it. It's the farting aliens. And I remembered the farting aliens. When we watched it the first time, I was like, this is bad. Because again, like I've said in previous episodes, I was not sold on Doctor Who yet. And Plastic Mickey and farting aliens. And I was like, what have you gotten me into? But I did remember that there were parts of this episode I liked. I remembered the pig. I remembered Raxacorical Fallopatorius. I remembered the good bits. And when we watched it again this time, I was like, oh, there's even more good bits than I realized because I was so focused on the farting aliens. And this go through, I specifically was like, I'm not going to pay as much attention to the farting parts, even though I did count the farts and there was 18. But yeah, like there's a lot going on that's good in this. Yeah, the pig concept is good. The plot is good, which is something for RTD. I feel like because sometimes he does just like, and then this happens, and then this happens, and also it's like visually it looks pretty cool. I like. We didn't even talk about the zipper heads. Anytime
you like the zipper heads,
I like the zipper heads, and like there's like this blue light, and like it looks creepy. I feel like the lighting and everything.
It is creepy.
That is actually something I think that works is the like just peeling the head open and that's just the lighting and the shadows and everything is really the aesthetics of that are really good. And the Slitheen design is really good. The only real downsides of this episode are the farting and the pace and the homophobic slur. But yeah, like I think if you condense this down to one episode, it'd be great. And if you got rid of the farting, people would have enjoyed this episode a lot more. Somebody re-edit it. Just get rid of all the farting.
But what are they going to put in there instead of the farting to make it so that you can figure out how to kill them with the vinegar?
They're made of baking soda.
But how do you realize that they're made of baking soda?
I mean, honestly, the like realization thing that happens... It's just which I kind of like that scene. It's the doctor saying, narrow it down. That
is a good scene.
Where they're just listing off the things they know.
That is an emotionally good scene, but plot-wise, bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just saying, if you cut out the farts, then you just bullshit that scene up a little more, and then you've covered it. Because it's kind of bullshit
It's all
already.
bullshit anyway.
Yeah.
You just replace it with different bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could just have, they look like Raxacorica Fallopatorians. I guess they're from Raxacoricofallapatorius. That means it's calcium, so let's use vinegar. Like,
Yeah.
there's not really any need for the farting. Because how does he even know about Raxacoricofallapatorius but doesn't recognize Raxacoricofallapatorians when he sees them? That's weird.
He's only read about him in a book.
It's like when you mispronounce a word.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't even know how to pronounce Raxacoricofallapatorius.
But he's the one who says it.
I know, but maybe he's just read it. There was no pictures.
What, and he figures out how to pronounce it because he hears calcium?
Well, no, I'm just saying he's mispronouncing it then. Maybe it's not Raxacoricofallapatorius. Do we hear anyone else besides him say Raxacoricofallapatorius?
Only after he said it. That wasn't my point. My point is that, like, when you, like, research something, so, like, you know, but you don't necessarily... You have, what's it called? Like, book knowledge, but not, like, field knowledge.
Right, so he just happens to know that Raxacoricofallapatorians are made of calcium, and bad breath smells like calcium decay.
But he's never been there, and he's never seen one.
Yeah.
He just read about it in, like, a article once. He heard about it on a podcast.
He heard it from our podcast.
There's a gas exchange from the compression field because they're big, and that's why it smells like calcium decay. It really is a bullshit moment, but it's intense. That's the thing, is like Russell T Davies covers up bullshit with intensity, but the farts don't help.
Oh, it's like I remember hearing something about the Farscape writers. To cover exposition, they'd always just have the characters throw each other against walls.
Oh man, that's why I like Farscape so much.
Anytime, like, so throw someone against a wall and then just deliver exposition, and it's like, yeah, it just really covers the fact that it's exposition because people are fighting. So that's what Russell T Davies is good at. But yeah, that's all I gotta say. It's alright. Not the best episode, not the worst. It might be the worst of this season.
I don't know if it's the worst of the season.
We'll see when we do our...
Yeah, I don't remember what we've got coming up.
Well, I'll tell you in a little bit.
I think my final thought, because I gave my penultimate thoughts. My final thought is probably, and this is a very probably final thoughts, is that farting is a distraction, because these two episodes are not as bad as they're remembered as being, and they're remembered as being as bad as they're remembered as being because of the farting. And if it was not for the farting, I think this would be remembered as maybe not a highlight of the season, but a pretty decent story. And I think the farting aliens really hurts. I think the farting hurts the episode in how it's remembered. And I think that's a lesson to take from it, is when you're writing a sci-fi story, or any story really think about, before you put a bunch of farts in it, really think about, what are people going to remember about this? What legacy am I leaving with this piece of art here, this piece of fart? Because if there's going to be a bunch of farts, if there's going to be multiple farts, like even just 3 farts, people are going to remember it as a farty story. And it's just going to be a gassy tale, and nobody's going to remember anything else. That's all they're going to think about for years. For like, what is it, 20 years now almost?
But they do remember it.
What if the alien farts helium? Throw that out there.
When they're nervous?
When they're nervous.
Well, that's just classic. That's actually a great idea. That's a Farscape reference.
It's in the first episode when they're like, we're not your mom's Muppets.
We fart helium.
There's a naked lady.
Do you think the Slitheen, the Raxacoricofallapatorians, are obsessed with farts because they're obsessed with gas and fuels? Like, it's part of the whole oil thing. It's natural gases.
Sure.
See, that's how it connects.
Do you want to give that much credit?
No, I think it all makes sense, and it's perfectly orchestrated. And you remove the farts from this episode, you've broken the fundamental structure.
The whole thing falls apart.
I mean, the most credit I can give to the farts is saying that it's a satire of American culture, that they enjoy the farts so much. Because that's something I've noticed is Americans, and I'm not saying all Americans, but Americans more so than probably anyone else, seems to find farts particularly amusing, to the point where you don't need a fart joke. Just a fart is funny on its own. No setup, no punchline, no context, no nothing, just a fart. Just the sound of a fart, the smell of a fart equals funny.
I'm laughing right now.
I have not found this to be the case. In my experience, farts not funny automatically. In fact, I would say that an actual like laugh from a fart is very hard to earn in my experience. It is possible with the right setup to conjure a humorous moment out of flatulence, but I would not say that it's something that comes automatically from the flatulence itself. It's a matter of joke structure and context and so on. And that's how you get a good fart joke. And they are very rare because I've heard so many farts and most of them not funny. I have come to associate the enjoyment of farts with American culture, but also German culture for some reason. I don't know where that comes from, but I feel like that's a German stereotype, the enjoyment of farts. I don't know why that is. It might be because there's not a big stand-up scene in Germany.
I feel like you've just been doing stand-up about farts for the past 10 minutes.
I'm not doing stand-up. I'm sitting down. I am sitting quite comfortably. But yeah, those might be my final thoughts, maybe.
Tweet Vince your fart jokes so that they can decide if they're funny or not.
I hope they don't, because chances are most of them are not going to be funny, and I'm not going to enjoy it. I mostly don't enjoy farts.
Vince and I wrote a fart joke once.
I'm sure we did. Did we?
In a Star Wars parody, but it was a misdirect. You think it's a fart joke. Then it turns out that Obi-Wan had just ran his hands down all the buttons in the elevator. You think he's smirking because he farted, but it's not. He pressed all the buttons in the elevator.
I have zero memory of this, which should not be surprising if you know me. I don't remember things. I also can't remember an example of a good fart joke. I know I've heard or seen farts used in film or television, and it's been funny, but it's very rare. And I would say to anyone out there who's writing science fiction, who's writing stories, who's writing comedy, if you're planning on using a fart, make sure it's fucking worth it, because otherwise the only thing anyone's going to remember about your whole thing is the farty thing. They're not going to remember it as being funny because it wasn't, unless you're the type of person who just always finds farts funny, which I guess is some Americans. And I guess that's the credit that I will give, is that it's in the satire of Americans in this episode, farts were emphasized. And that is the only excuse I can think of for it. And I don't think it works.
I can think of one movie that did a good fart joke that became they became a running gag, and then the last time they did it, it was sad. That'd be Shaun of the Dead.
I have not seen Shaun of the Dead yet, and I know I should.
It's got a good fart joke.
Are we doing a Cornetto trilogy? The Watch-A-Thon of Sean.
Yeah, the Watch-A-Thon of Sean. Before we go, Vince, is there anything you would like to plug?
Yes, there is one thing that I can plug, I think. Because if you go to like vincentel.bandcamp.com, you can find a song there that I released a little while ago called Unironically Unsincere. I'd like people to listen to that song, because nobody did.
It's good.
It's a good song.
I listened to it.
Okay, so two people listened to that song.
I think the whole group chat.
Yeah.
A group chat listened to that song. Maybe.
I can't vouch for everyone in there. I can only vouch for me and you.
Yeah, and we enjoyed it, so you should give it a listen.
I sincerely, unironically enjoyed it.
Now you're just confusing people. It's called Unironically Unsincere.
I would like to plug mintypineapple.com/store, and there you can buy a book that Vince and I co-wrote called Princess and the Pterodactyls.
Oh, yeah.
And also, there's some comics on there, and at some point, possibly, potentially, hopefully, there'll be a comic that Vince and I co-wrote. So, thing in space. So keep your eyes out for that.
Yeah, Christine Cherry also helped out with that one. And your dad helped out with it also in drawing it. So that is something I should really look over the lettering and make sure the dialogue isn't trash and shit like that.
Well, I have one other plug. I'd like to say a special thank you to our newest Patreon patron, Hazel Twilight. Thank you for being our new patron.
Hey, thanks.
Hey, thanks.
You can check her out at adventuresinclassictime.tumblr.com. And if you like this episode of the podcast, check out more on Watch-A-Rassilon.com. You can also find our podcast, our Patreon, and more at Linktree/Watch-A-Thon. I also want to give a special shout out to somebody named Vincent E.L. who did our theme song.
Hey, thank you, Vince.
Who's that?
That is just this person we know. You can check out more of their music at vincentel.bandcamp.com. Hey, that's been plugged already.
Yeah.
Tune in next time when we talk about Dalek with returning guests Matt Golden and Nathan Laws.
Hey, thanks, Matt.
The two, deepest voiced
It'll just be
guests we have.
baritone city.
I mean, I could have talked like this the whole time if you wanted me to.
Oh, shit. We did. And now we got to start over.
Now we
Hi,
gotta-
I'm Joe Heath.
Can I do it?
Oh, sure.
I'm Tony.
Hi, I'm Joe Heath.
And I'm Vincent E.L.
And this is the Watch-A-Thon of my throat just falling out of my body.
My throat is fine.
Why are you in your throat so much?
I don't know. Until next time, keep calm and wrestle on.
Goodbye, and I love you in a platonic, parasocial way.
And I'm Batman.
Excuse me, do you mind not farting while I'm saving the world?
Would you rather silent but deadly?
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping for the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.